Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience.
Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Now, we did say on last week's podcast that we were going to bring you some Origin-related content to sort of finish off the Origin period. Well, this is it. What we are going to do is we are going to name our 1 to 21 for both New South Wales and Queensland for next year. And I know it's a bit early because it's only pretty much a week or so after Game 3 of this year. So definitely way too early to be predicting these sides, but I thought it'd be a good little piece of content just to go through what the sides could look like going into next year. Now, this is of the belief that everyone is available. Everyone that is available for their state is available to be selected. There's going to be a few controversial ones just based off what we saw from this year's series. You're looking at New South Wales. Are you going to change too much from that lineup? I don't think so. As for Queensland, I think there are going to be one or two changes in this side, and you'd think so after a series loss. Let's go through the changes and just what the sides look like. I'm going to rattle through the sides 1 to 21, and then we'll go one by one through each side after that. So, New South Wales, I've got Edwards at fullback. I've got To'o and Lomax on the wings. I've got Critter and Turbo in the centres. I've got Luai and Moses in the halves. Haas and Gerbo front row. Robson 9. Angus Crichton and Liam Martin back row. Cam Murray 13. My bench is Watson, Lenu, Barnett, Yo. My rest of my squad, including an extra 21st man, is Isaiah Katoa, Hamole Olakawatu, Keon Kalon-Matangi, and Nathan Cleary. Now, Queensland is Ponga at fullback, Holmes and Cobbo wings, Hammer, Gagai centres, Munster DCE halves, Collins, Mo Fotuaika front row, Harry Grant 9, Fafita, Cotter back row, Carrigan 13, Tom Dearden 14, Tino 15. We've got I can't even read my own handwriting there. Jeremiah Nanai there at number 16. And then 17 is Reece Walsh. Let's go through New South Wales first. As you can tell, not too many changes from this series. A little bit of controversy here around the number 7 jersey. Now, there's a lot of question marks around, is this Moses' jersey going into next year? I think after this performance that we've just seen, it is. And then in terms of where Nathan Cleary sits, well, I think he does sit in the squad. But I also think that he's going to have to earn that number 7 jersey back. And looking at the form that we've just seen from him over the past 2 weeks, I think that he is probably going to do that. But right now, based off what the series that we've just seen and the form, obviously Cleary's only been back for 2 weeks. I would be chucking in Moses in that number 7. And that's his jersey at the moment based off what we've seen right now. But obviously, we haven't seen any form for next year. We don't know what's happened next year. For all we know, either one of these guys, knock on wood, but either one of these guys could be getting an injury or something like that during that period. So at the moment, I've got Moses in that number 7 jersey, but Cleary is in the squad. In terms of the other changes here for New South Wales, there isn't any really from Game 3 other than, Turbo. That's probably a big one. I think Critter goes back to left centre. I think you bring Tom Trbojevic, if fully fit, into this side. I think Tom Trbojevic fully fit, no matter the injury cloud around him. If he's fully fit and proven and he knows that he's ready to go, he's in the side 100%. What he can do in an Origin arena, how he can break a game open in an Origin arena, I think you got to have him in there. So he moves to right centre. And you move Critter back to the left. You get that Penrith combination going again with Critter and To'o. And that's how I'd probably structure that. Bradman Best, I think that he's going to be behind a few guys, such as Latrell Mitchell. If he's in good form, he's definitely going to be in and around the side as well. That does put a bit of pressure on Critter. Then again, we could see Critter move to a wing and Latrell Mitchell come into the centres. But you look at Lomax in the series that he's had as well. It is going to be very difficult for Madge Maguire to pick the side going into next year, especially if Latrell Mitchell and Tom Trbojevic are firing. I've got Turbo in there, but Latrell, he could be very likely as well. If he has a good season, if there's not too many injuries or suspensions, he's having a good quality year, Souths are going well, I think that he could be very likely to pop himself into the side as well. And then, look, in terms of the squad, we've talked about Isaiah Katoa being in the squad for a while, just having a young guy for the future that you're going to have in this squad moving forward. I think that would be a nice one to include in there. Hamole has been in the squad since game one. So he'd definitely be in there. Keon, for me, after the year that he's had and just the past few weeks that he's had, For me, he's got to be in there, and I think that if he continues that form into next year in that middle sort of role, he could definitely see himself sitting around the Origin conversation. And then Nathan Cleary as well, obviously, is going to be around the discussion. I've got him in that magical number 21 that I usually do as an extra guy. It's only a 20-man squad, so the 20-man squad would be Isaiah Katoa, Hamole, Keon. But yeah, this 7 battle is going to be historic. It's going to be unreal. It's going to be fun to watch, and I can't wait to see it. Who gets the number 7 jersey for New South Wales? Does Jerome Luai get dropped and they both get into the halves? I just think it's a bit messy with 2 game managers in there, 2 quality kickers. Cleary, Moses, they're both great runners. They're both really good game managers, and they can kick the ball very well, the both of them. You're basically getting the same thing out of both of those guys. You're not getting what you get out of Luai through Moses, if that makes sense. And you're not getting what you get out of Luai through Cleary either. So I think that Luai keeps the 6. It is going to be a battle for the 7 between Moses and Cleary. Let's move on to Queensland. Let's talk about the changes that I've got here. I think the big one that you obviously see that sticks out to you the most would be Ponga starting at fullback with Walsh off the bench. I think Walsh would have a lot more impact in that middle roaming sort of role. I think from what we've seen from both of these guys in a 6 capacity, I think what we've seen from a 6 capacity from Walsh at the Warriors during that time has been a little bit better than what we've seen from Ponga in the number 6. And that might be a bit of a controversial take as well. But I think that Ponga needs to be the fullback. If he's fully fit, if he's available, he's the fullback. For me, I think that he just, in terms of decision making, would make a few better decisions in attack and would just be a little bit less low percentage. And I think that Walsh, as I said, he'd be a really good spark man off the bench, providing a lot of impact. You just don't know what you're going to get out of him. He comes through in the middle and just roams. I think that'd be really, really good. Defensively, look, there was concerns when they did this with Ponga. There's obviously going to be concerns if they do this with Walsh. But I think the X factor that you're going to get from Walsh coming off the bench, if they train with him for the full time, they get a few weeks with him training in that sort of role, I think that he'll handle himself. Ponga came in last minute for game 3 off the back of an injury. There was a lot more risk bringing in Ponga than there is with Walsh because Walsh has been in the squad for a while now. I think that Walsh will move to that 17 role, and I think that Ponga will be the fullback. As I said, big call. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I know I'm going to get hounded for some of these decisions anyway. I think the most obvious change here is that obviously Munster comes back in if he's fully fit. Dearden, he'll move to the 14 jersey. I think he's the future at 14 until Munster and DCE both retire. Then I think Dearden will be the future 7. But right now, I think where Dearden's future lies is in that 14 jersey. And I think the big question as well out of this move from me is what happens with Ben Hunt. I think Ben Hunt's time in Origin will probably be done going into next year. I mean, look, he's been great in Origin. There's nothing that to suggest that it will be the case, but, he's only getting older. I think that he will probably hang up the rep boots potentially next year, if not the year after. But then again, I want to build a Queensland. Well, I don't want to build a Queensland side for the future, but I'm sure Billy would want to build a Queensland side for the future, or whoever's in there moving forward will want to build a good Queensland side for the future. And I think that Dearden, Walsh, these sort of guys are the future. These guys have to be utilities, and Harry Grant's the future there in the number 9. So same deal there for me. Dearden would probably come on and play a bit of a 9 role. That's where I'd see him coming into the game just through the middle, taking hard tackles, playing that hooker 1-2 punch that we've seen from Ben Hunt and Harry Grant. And that would be the new hooker 1-2 punch for me moving forward. It's a bit ruthless from me, but I think that's a change that's got to be made. I think a controversial change that a lot of people are looking at here as well is Mo Fodawaker to start. Now, Mo Fodawaker's got a question mark next to his name, and the reason for that is because you're obviously getting 2 guys back that a lot of people have forgotten about in the Origin arena. Tom Gilbert, Tom Flegler. Both of these guys coming back next year. Tom Flegler, there's a few question marks around him, obviously in terms of his fitness, in terms of that shoulder, obviously some nerve damage there. We don't even know if he could be back next year, but as far as he's concerned, he's ready to go for next year. He's still doing contact training at the Dolphins. They're just sort of monitoring him at the moment, and he's going to have to learn to play with that condition. As for Gilbert, back-to-back, really severe injuries for him. I think that it's going to be interesting to see how he travels next year. Could he even get back to that Origin form? That's the thing. That's the reason I put Mo Fodawaker in there at the moment, is because there's 2 very big question marks around both of these guys. Gilbert, how is he going to return from injury? Can he get back to Origin form? And then obviously Flegler, How is he going to manage this injury? Can he manage this injury? Are we looking at an early retirement here? And that's huge for me to say. But especially when he's come out on that James Graham podcast and he said, look, he's working towards that. He's going to manage and learn to play with this injury. But we're looking at all scenarios here. And at the moment, I've got Mo Fodawaker in there because both of those guys have a bit of a question mark around them. And then I know you're all shouting at your screens. Well, what about Tino? Tino's on the bench. Tino will have a huge impact off the bench at a bit of size there, especially with the bench that I've got at the moment. You've got Tino, you've got Nanai. Nana will come on in the back row. You probably move Cotter into the middle of the field. As for Tino, he obviously comes in the middle. I think Collins plays huge minutes. I think Paddy Carrigan will move into the front row. And when Walsh comes on, so Paddy Carrigan will play big minutes as well. That's how I've sort of got my side structured. In terms of the reserves for Queensland, which I forgot to write down here, in terms of the reserves for Queensland, obviously the first one that sort of comes to mind for me as an 18th man is Ezra Mam. I think Ezra Mam, he's, again, another guy that could be the future for Queensland as well. Now, it's going to be a little bit controversial picking two halves here, but the 19th man, Walker, Sammy Walker, I think that he's going to get an opportunity in the squad. They've been very frequent with bringing guys who are quite younger and changing up the extended bench for each game. Queensland, we've seen that over the past, the 3 games that we saw this year. I think that Walker and Mann both get an opportunity. Then you're going to need that spare forward. Then I'm going to bring in, or I'm going to write down F/G for Flegler/Gilbert. One of those guys will get an extended bench spot. And then jersey number 21, my mystical jersey number 21. Well, that's going to go to a few guys. A few guys that could come in. Obviously, Murray Taulagi, who can slot into this back line somewhere. He could probably grab that spot in the reserves. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest. Look, I've got Gagai keeping his spot. He's only getting older as well, but I think that he was probably one of the shining lights for Queensland, or at least one of the better players on the field for Queensland in that game 3 when he came in. And I think just defensively, you're much more shored up on that edge too with him in that centre position. Just other guys that aren't in the back line as well, like Xavier Coates. He'll probably be in and around that area as well. In that number 21, just another guy that can come into the squad. Now, I know there isn't a 21-man squad, but this is just other guys that could come into the reserves that you're going to chuck in that jersey. There's plenty of other guys, plenty of guys that could go on the wing, plenty of guys that could come in the halves. Trent Liero was a guy that was in the squad before. Brendan Piakura, one of these guys, could get that spot as well. So I guarantee that one of these spots, or at least 2 of these spots, potentially go to a young guy. For me, those young guys will be Walker and Mam, or at least maybe one of them gets a spot in the reserves. But I imagine that one, if not both of them, will be there just to get a bit of experience in the Origin squad. Could even be Walker next year since Mam's already been in the squad before. Reid Marnie's obviously been in the squad before too, obviously in game 3. The hooker 1-2 punch, if it doesn't work in game 1 with Dearden, you maybe move Marnie and make that the new hooker 1-2 punch and wait for Dearden, wait to bring Dearden back until they've, got Munster who retires, or DC probably is the sooner one to retire from the Origin arena. Probably after next year, you'll look to see a DCE retire from the Origin arena. So it'd probably be more likely to come in then. But I've got him in 14 just because defensively he's tough. I imagine he'll give good service at a dummy half. He's got good ball skills and can just run amok there in a bit of a roaming lock sort of role too if you need him to come on in that sort of position. But those are my sides. I'll read them out quickly for you again. I have got for New South Wales, Edwards at fullback, To'o and Lomax wings, Critter, Turbo centres, Luai, Moses halves, Haas, Gerbo front row, Reece Robson 9, Angus Crichton, Martin back row, Murray 13, Watson, Lenu, Barnett, Yo. And then the reserves are Katoa, Hamole, Keon, and Cleary. For the Maroons, we have Ponga at fullback, Holmes, Cobbo wings, Hammer, Gagai centres, Munster, DCE halves, Collins, Mo Fodawaker at the moment in the front row with Harry Grant at 9. I just like as well how Mo Fodawaker started that game for Queensland. I think that how they started was a big part of him coming out of the line, putting on some big shots, getting right up in New South Wales' face for those first few minutes. Fafita and Cotter in the back row, Carrigan 13, Dearden, Tino, Nanai, and Walsh are my bench. reserves are Mam, Walker, either Flegler or Gilbert if they're available. Jaden Sewer's probably going to be in and around there as well. I think he was unfairly dropped. Bo Firma's another guy that could be in and around there, whether it be a back as well like Taulungi or Coates. One of these guys will get that other spot, but there's only 3 spots in the reserves. For me at the moment, it is Mam, Walker, and then one of Flegler or Gilbert, depending on if they get back to Origin form. Otherwise, Peacora probably gets that spot since he's been in the squad before, and I imagine he'll get back to his form going into next year. If you liked all of that content, make sure to subscribe and become a part of the Big LEZ'S League community. We are posting plenty of rugby league content, plenty of news reaction content on the podcast, so make sure to get around it. Make sure to subscribe. All of the socials will be in the description below as well, so make sure you get a hold of those. Let me know what your changes would be going into next year. If I'm just an idiot, let me know about that too. But yeah, any changes that you disagree with, let me know. Happy to have a discussion in the description section with you because, yeah, look, I imagine there are a few controversial picks in this side that you guys are going to be keen to froth about. So if there's any changes you disagree with or any changes that you think you would make going into the 2025 season for State of Origin, let me know. We'll see you guys in the next one.